Amazing revelation. Billionaire's daughter. Unexpectedly calls black waitress mom after 2 years. The morning sun filtered through the diner's grimy windows, casting shadows over the worn linoleum floor where Lisa hurriedly wiped down tables. She exhaled, feeling the familiar weight of exhaustion settle on her shoulders. The clatter of plates and the sharp sound of orders being thrown around filled the air as she prepared herself for another long shift, one that always seemed to stretch endlessly ahead, both in time and expectation. Life had become a balancing act, juggling the demands of her job with the relentless responsibilities of caring for her aging mother. As she slid a plate of breakfast special to the tight-lipped businessman at the counter, her mind wandered to the notice she received last week regarding additional cuts at work. The thought made her stomach churn. "Just keep smiling," she whispered to herself, forcing her lips into a thin line of optimism. But beneath that facade was a deep-seated fear that threatened to unravel her. Could she afford to be cheerful when everything felt as brittle as the plates she carried? Each interaction with customers, especially Amanda, the wealthy tech magnate's daughter, stirred the internal conflict within her, one that danced around ambition, class divides, and the suffocating grip of expectation. As her shifts wore on, Lisa observed Amanda from afar, hunched over her phone, oblivious to the world beyond her golden cage. "Another latte?" Lisa would ask, masking genuine curiosity with the pleasantries of her job. Each time, Amanda barely looked up, absorbed in her digital realm, drowning out the drumming of reality. With time and their daily banter, Lisa's sunny demeanor began to soften Amanda's guarded exterior, drawing them closer with each shared word and heartfelt smile. But when whispers of a marriage proposal surfaced, an arranged coupling that her father fervently supported, the tension surged between them. Lisa caught Amanda's frantic eyes one day, a storm brewing behind silent tears. "I can't. I won't," Amanda murmured, desperate and conflicted. The rawness of their conversation swept Lisa into a world where their struggles felt intertwined, despite the chasm that separations defined. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Just as their friendship blossomed, the fate woven between them spiraled into chaos. An innocent misunderstanding about Amanda's well-intentioned prank fractured the fragile threads that held Lisa's professional life together. Her boss roared, furious at the distraction caused by the wealthy girl, the very privilege that Lisa had come to both admire and resent. Disgraced and anxious, Lisa stood on the precipice of losing not just her job, but the stability she fought so hard to maintain for her mother. The weight of it all pressed in on her like a vice. The smell of bacon swirling in the air now felt suffocating. The gnawing uncertainty wrapped around her heart, squeezing it tight. Would she have to watch her mother's health deteriorate due to her inability to provide? How could she face Amanda, the daughter of a mogul who seemed incapable of understanding the daily struggles of survival? In that moment, their realities collided irrevocably. Caught in the rising tide of their circumstances, the emotional landscape shifted, and Lisa found herself staring deep into Amanda's pained eyes. "What have you done?" she challenged silently, hating the rift that had opened between them. Beyond the diner's flickering neon sign, the course of their lives awaited decision, a moment of potential shattered just beneath the surface. Tension hung in the air, palpable and thick. The truth loomed, ready to surprise them both, but for now, it remained hidden, like so much else left unsaid. Lisa stood frozen, the vibration of her emotions threatening to overwhelm her as she faced Amanda. The din of the diner faded, replaced by the hushed cadence of her own heartbeat. Lisa's mind raced, balancing concern for her own precarious situation against the sudden bond that had formed between them. The warmth of their shared laughter grew heavy with guilt, its lightness dimmed by the currents swirling just beneath their surface. She glanced around the diner, her hand still clutching the tray, feeling out of place as if time had morphed into a distorted reflection of her fears. She wanted to scream or disappear, any form of release from the invisible chains that bound her to this moment. How could she reconcile her own fight for stability with the effortless privilege Amanda so casually navigated? Every second felt like an eternity. "Lisa." Amanda's voice was soft, but hesitant, cutting through the tension like a knife. It was the first time Lisa had heard her say her name with that lingering interest, an acknowledgement beyond the consumer-server relationship they occupied. With a shaky breath, Lisa forced herself to respond, masking the trembling doubt with composure. "What's going on, Amanda?" The question was deliberate, allowing them to wade into the murky waters that seemed to rise between them. "I didn't mean for this to happen." Amanda's words tumbled out, laced with raw emotion. "I thought it would be funny. It turned out so differently." "Funny?" Lisa's voice edged on incredulous, as her anxiety clawed deeper into her chest. "You think ruining my reputation is funny? What's so amusing about a joke that puts my job at risk?" "I didn't want to hurt you," Amanda exclaimed, her voice cracking. "I wanted to be your friend. But I messed up, and now my dad is going to—" "Your dad?" Lisa interrupted, frustration boiling over. "Let me ask you something. What does he have to lose? You're going to walk away from this unscathed, while I might lose my mother's care, my stability. What do you understand about me?" The silence that followed felt thick and heavy, and the realization of their disparate realities hung in the air like a dark cloud. Lisa's heart raced at the depth of emotion coursing through her. She knew Amanda was more than just a girl with privilege. She held dreams heavy with expectations. But those dreams felt hopelessly disconnected from the reality of Lisa's life, where the stakes ran far deeper than mere embarrassment. "I get it," Amanda whispered, pain laced in her tone. "But you have something I don't. You're strong. You endure. I feel like I'm suffocating under everything. And sometimes I wish I could be free, to just be me. And not what everyone else expects." A flicker of understanding passed between them, recognizing that each was wrestling with their own complex web of suffering. Lisa's frustration began to shift, morphing into something softer, a dawning clarity that perhaps their struggles could do more than set them apart. "Maybe I'm trying to make sense of it all too," Lisa allowed, her voice quiet yet firm. "Stepping out of one's shadow can take time, Amanda. It requires courage. But can you gather the strength to break this cycle for both of us?" As their gazes locked, promises hung in the silence. This moment could either dissolve or reshape them. But the steps forward demanded a shared commitment, one that might require sacrifices Lisa had never anticipated. "I'll do what it takes. I promise." Amanda's voice was steady, a commitment heavier than her words suggested. They stood on the brink of an unlikely partnership, a unique camaraderie forged in vulnerability and resilience. Lisa could feel the flicker of determination ignite within her, along with an understanding that distancing themselves from their respective roles might be the key to liberating their lives. As the din of the diner began to swell once more, Lisa felt her resolve fortifying. She was more than a waitress. She could redefine her situation, transforming their shared challenge into mutual empowerment. With lightning speed, Lisa's mind raced toward possibilities, contemplating how this budding alliance could ignite change in both their lives. "You know my mother. She was once full of dreams," she confessed cautiously. "Maybe I can help you with your own." But the shadows of doubt still crouched at the edges of her thoughts. Would her new friend really step away from the golden prison? What would her own journey demand of her? The questions lingered, heavy with newfound tension. Courage beckoned her forward. But could she handle the depths of this unforeseen alliance? Lisa's heart raced as she stepped into the light of a new day. The sun filtering through her bedroom window, a steady reminder of the present and the possibilities it harbored. The conversation with Amanda lingered in her thoughts, electrifying the mundane routine she had fallen into. There was a shift within her, a whisper of potential that compelled her to confront the days ahead with renewed purpose. Her fingers brushed against the text messages buzzing on her phone, a flood of normalcy in contrast to the emotional upheaval from the diner. Messages from coworkers about shifts, tips, and inquiries about her well-being cast a net of expectations around her. Yet, amidst it all, Amanda's promise echoed louder than the clamor of daily life. "I'll do what it takes, I promise." The sincerity in Amanda's voice was a fragile hope she couldn't ignore, regardless of the trenches both of them had come from. As the morning unfolded, Lisa fought the urge to retreat into the comforts of denial. Instead, the urgency of change welled within, urging her to confront not only her partnership with Amanda, but also her own growing anxiety related to their respective realities. She arrived at the diner, feeling the weight of her commitment. The environment buzzed with the rhythmic clanging of dishes and chatter that laced the air with anticipation. However, today felt different. It wasn't just about serving tables. It was about seizing opportunities. Every order she took felt charged with the potential to shift not only her circumstances, but to ignite Amanda's desires for independence away from expectation. "Hey, Lisa," called out Marcy, one of the regulars. "Everything okay? You seem out of it." Flashing a smile that barely touched her eyes, Lisa replied, "Yeah, just thinking about how to improve things around here. Heard a few ideas lately." Marcy raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Like what? More daily specials? Music nights? Maybe a weekly event? Something that brings in a younger crowd?" Lisa mused, her own enthusiasm surprising her. Something that showcases local talent. Give kids a chance to perform. Sounds ambitious for a diner shift. Marcy laughed lightly, yet Lisa sensed her genuine interest. Ambition. It was a concept Lisa had grappled with for years, worn like an old coat she knew she had to shed. Perhaps she would initiate change here as a stepping stone towards more personal growth. Inspired, she began jotting down ideas on a napkin, envisioning the themes and activities that could resonate with her community and provide a new avenue for herself and others. Yet fear surfaced in her mind like the sudden rush of cold water, questioning if this burst of inspiration was worth the risk. What if she failed? What if her ideas were met with apathy? A wavering doubt threatened to snuff out the spark emerging within her. Pushing through that doubt, she decided to share her thoughts with Amanda during their planned meeting later that day. After all, forging this partnership would require transparency and collaboration, two essential ingredients for this alliance to flourish. The clock crawled as afternoon ambled into evening, each tick a reminder of the necessity of the conversation to come. Lisa could almost sense Amanda's presence like an energy. The thought of her drove excitement and anxiety in equal measure. Finally, their paths crossed in the cozy corner of the diner once again. Lisa's heart thrummed with anticipation and vulnerability as she settled across from Amanda. What if this partnership could dismantle the hesitance she had wielded as a shield for years? "I've been thinking about something," Lisa began, her voice steadying, "about how we can help each other with our ambitions." Amanda leaned forward, her eyes bright with curiosity, as Lisa unfurled her ideas. As she spoke, the din of the diner faded into the background. Each idea spun out a web of collaboration, creating an unseen bond between them that transcended their previous uncertainties. But as they mapped out their plans, uncertainty tugged at the edges of Lisa's excitement. The more Amanda engaged, the more Lisa felt an interesting tension build. Would Amanda live up to her promise? Was she truly ready to confront the expectations binding her? This partnership, fostering creativity and vulnerability, was a delicate dance. One slip could dismantle it all. As Lisa articulated her hopes, she couldn't shake the feeling that the coming days would challenge not only their resolve, but also their very identities. Would they forge a path toward their dreams, or would looming shadows of past expectations pull them back into their respective corners? With the diner surrounding them, filled with lively chatter, a single thought crystallized in her mind. The true test of this partnership was just beginning. After their discussion that evening, Lisa felt a peculiar blend of anticipation and apprehension settle in her stomach. Ideas flowed easily, but the fibers of doubt continued to weave their way through her thoughts. She needed to let go, to open herself to the possibility that not everything had to be perfect from the start. Amanda's enthusiasm had ignited a spark, and yet, the weight of reality pressed heavily on her shoulders. The next day, Lisa approached her shift with tangible determination, her notepad filled with sketches of potential plans for the diner. She had envisioned local musicians lining the walls with vibrancy, while kids took center stage, sharing their talents in an environment that celebrated their individuality. Yet, there was a stark contrast between her dreams and the suffocating familiarity of daily tasks. As her shift commenced, she felt unusually aware of the routines. Each clink of silverware, each request for coffee, echoed her internal battle. Marcy, always bright and unrestrained, noticed Lisa's softened demeanor throughout the day. "You sure you're okay? You seem like you're walking through fog," she jested, wiping down a counter. "I'm just thinking big," Lisa replied, her resolve hardening en route to her next table. As she served the patrons, her mind churned with the consequences of her ambitions. What if the community rejected her ideas? The thought was paralyzing, yet she reminded herself that even the greatest achievement stemmed from risk. Closing her eyes for a brief moment, she allowed herself to imagine the diner transformed, walls adorned with art, laughter replacing the mundane, and lives touched through creativity. That evening, she met Amanda again, energized by a new sense of clarity. "Let's outline a plan," Lisa urged, her voice tinged with newfound confidence. "We need a visual proposal and some community feedback. We can set up a survey to gauge interest." Amanda nodded, her enthusiasm infectious. "We could schedule informal sessions, maybe even a trial showcase on the weekend." Lisa's heart swelled with pride as they began delineating responsibilities. Who would reach out to performers, who would handle logistics, and how they could promote it to the younger crowd. Everything was falling into place, but a nagging whisper clawed at the corner of her mind. Was this too much too soon? As the days blended into a flurry of energy and activity, Lisa became increasingly alert to the reactions of those around her. Comments from co-workers were mixed. Some shared hints of excitement, yet others remained skeptical, urging her to focus on her serving tasks instead of fanciful plans. "Stick to what you know, Lisa," said Jake, a longtime cook, one afternoon, lowering his voice conspiratorially. "Don't bite off more than you can chew." His words stung, a reminder of her own fears. What if she was out of her depth, an imposter among those who played by the rules? Despite his words, perhaps because of them, Lisa continued to push forward. She and Amanda launched their survey, strategically placing it on the diner's social media and encouraging patrons to contribute ideas. To her surprise, feedback rolled in quicker than she anticipated, with more validation than criticism. The surge of reaction, from the kids who had bright ideas for performances to parents eager to support their children, was overwhelming. Within days, Lisa stood at the precipice of change and could practically taste it. However, as validation flooded in, so did questions about her own worthiness. Her newfound confidence wavered, unsettled by the echoes of past doubts. Could she truly capitalize on this moment? Could she lead with initiative and inspiration? Their initial showcase was approaching, and the fear of public scrutiny loomed large. As she finalized details with Amanda, Lisa realized she'd have to confront more than just the community's expectations. She would need to grapple with her own insecurities and fears of failure. The day of the showcase arrived, and with it, a storm of emotions that enveloped her. Standing backstage as performers warmed up with energetic sounds streaming from the diner, she felt both excitement and dread wash over her. Taking a deep breath, she peered into the dining area. A sea of faces, some familiar, others unknown. They were there, ready to witness her ambitions come to life. But even with the energy buzzing around her, a dark question simmered beneath the surface. Would this be the moment that validated her effort, or the terrifying collapse of every dream she had dared to share? She turned to Amanda, who held her gaze, a silent promise of support radiating between them. The moment was near. Confidence or doubt? What would define her when the curtain rose? As the first chord struck, she felt the breath of possibility stir within her like never before. But even with everything in motion, an unsettling tension lay just out of reach. In a space where courage met vulnerability, one truth remained stark. The outcome could shatter everything she was building. And in that very moment she understood. This was only the beginning. As the first notes danced through the air, the crowd erupted, an electric wave of clapping and cheers spilling like a torrent of sound. Lisa felt her heart race, a mix of exhilaration and anxiety swirling within her. The glow of the stage lights illuminated her surroundings, creating an atmosphere that both comforted and terrified her. She watched Amanda leap into action, excitement radiating from her as she took control of the mic, welcoming everyone and outlining the lineup. Lisa stood slightly behind the curtain, feeling oddly detached from the moment. This was supposed to be her vision, their vision. Yet she found herself grappling with the instinct that she was an imposter. Although she was no longer trapped in mundane tasks, she was hyper-aware of every heartbeat, every whisper of doubt rising within her. Focusing on the performers took some pressure off her own insecurities, as each act played out in lively fashion. The musicians brought down the walls, while the younger kids leaped into their spotlight moments, each note ringing with the promise of acceptance, creativity, and community. Lisa couldn't help but smile, her heart swelling with pride for the courage these performers exhibited. But just as the joy began to root itself in her, it was usurped by a gnawing feeling. What if they failed? What if the energy dissipated, and this vibrant night wilted into disappointment? Those thoughts crushed down like heavy weights, taunting her with reminders of every instance she had ever doubted herself, every time she had fallen short. The first act concluded, leading into applause that reverberated through the diner. Lisa could overhear snippets of conversations from the tables around her, families laughing, friends sharing surprised smiles, older patrons reminiscing about their own younger days. Perhaps, she pondered, she was really onto something. Yet a sharper edge of anxiety cut deeper when Jake wandered by, arms crossed, eyes skeptical. Nice show, but we'll see if it survives the weekend. Just remember, you're not a performer. He smirked slightly before disappearing into the very back of the diner. The weight of his dismissive words landed heavily on her, an anchor threatening to drown her burgeoning confidence. Lisa inhaled slowly, mustering her breath as the next act prepared to take the stage. She could feel Amanda's gaze flicker to her now and then throughout the performances, an unspoken pact vibrating between them. They had woven their plans like threads, but the fabric of realization and fear was even more complex. What was the ultimate goal, and could she remain steadfast in the face of skepticism? As the showcase progressed, she caught wind of small conversations happening around her, the mixtures of enthusiasm and skepticism among the regulars. The seat of the diner held promise, but also uncertainty. How would they perceive this transformation? Would these fleeting moments stick, or fall to the wayside as mere opportunistic whims? Doubts flared again, insistent and cruel. She had built this space for performance, but were her ambitions about the diner or about her own validation? The spotlight was on the performers, yet why did she feel so vulnerable? Determined not to let these reflections anchor her down further, she made a conscious decision. It was time to embrace the discomfort and merge her fears with the energy swirling around her. She would no longer shy away from the spotlight of possibility, or the inevitable criticisms that would accompany it. "Let's start planning for next time," she whispered to herself, suddenly sparked with resolve. Just as the thought crystallized, Amanda burst backstage, her eyes wide with exhilaration. "Lisa, the crowd wants to hear from you. They're loving this." The call to speak sent a jolt of panic through her, but it also stirred something deep within. Maybe this was the moment she needed to step forward, not to seek validation, but to own her part in the process of creation. Taking a breath, she followed Amanda to the front, her heartbeat syncing with the pulse of excitement filling the diner. This wasn't about dodging criticism. It was about showcasing resilience. As she grasped the microphone, a hesitance flickered in her chest, but she smiled, locking eyes with an eager audience. A chance to share what lay within her. But just as she prepared to speak, a sound from the back caught her ear, something sharper than applause. A voice echoed, "Wait, is that Lisa?" The unexpected familiarity spun around in her mind like a whirling dervish. Who would recognize her in a place where she was still redefining herself? In that fleeting moment, excitement twisted into trepidation, the atmosphere shifting like the winds of change. The weight of possibility lay heavy, and she understood. She was stepping into the unknown. Would she rise to the occasion, or would doubt rob her of this opportunity to take ownership of her journey? The moment awaited her response, a precipice leading into the uncharted territory of both her life and her limits. Lisa's breath hitched, her grip tightening around the microphone as she turned instinctively toward the voice that had called out. The realization hit her like a bomb and a storm at once. It was a familiar old friend from high school. Just this same friend, lost in the whirlwind of her own life, had become a distant memory blurred by years of small-town routines and mundane responsibilities. Irina stepped into the dim light of the diner. Her features were grown up yet unchanged, exuding an aura of confidence and success that Lisa felt she had yet to attain. In that moment, the warmth of recognition was interlaced with the cold tendrils of insecurity tightening around Lisa's heart. This wasn't just any casual alibi of past friendship. This was Irina, who had escaped their little town, who now belonged to a world that seemed foreign and unattainable. "What are you doing here?" Irina's smile was genuine but tinged with surprise, flitting between the lines of joy and curiosity. Lisa cleared her throat, the spotlight glaring down like a judgmental friend. "Just showcasing some talent," she replied, the words tumbling out as hesitation tugged at her thoughts. "We're trying to create something special here." A soft murmur rippled through the audience as she stumbled for a moment, feeling the weight of expectation plunge deeper. This was not merely a performance. It was a revelation of her own journey, a pivot that she had sought to acknowledge not just for herself, but for others watching. Special, like redefining a diner? Irina's question lingered, playful yet laced with skepticism. "You mean, this is about you stepping into something new?" Lisa's heart raced, her pulse quickening. The unspoken implications of Irina's words sparked a fierce indignation. "Yes, it is. It is about stepping up, not just for myself, but for people who need a space where they can feel real, where they can celebrate creativity." Each word felt like a declaration, a break from the chains of her self-doubt. An undercurrent of longing surged within her as she felt even more acutely the weight on her shoulders. Could this space she believed in also be worthy of Irina? Would she judge this humble attempt at rekindling the creativity that had lain dormant for years? Irina seemed to pause, her expression shifting from curiosity to understanding. But Lisa wasn't sure if it was enough. She couldn't deny how the gaze of someone who once knew her intimately brought forth another layer of her anxiety. As she continued talking about the night's progress, Lisa began to articulate her vision, her eyes lighting up, one breath at a time, peeling away layers of uncertainty. With every shared thought, the exhilaration she had felt earlier returned, pushing back against her fears, fueling her excitement. I mean, this is just the first step, but it's about making the space feel alive. It's about art and expression, and even if people doubt. A wave of enthusiasm washed over her, but as she glanced at Irina's expression, she caught a twinkle of skepticism laced with a shadow of remembrance. Did she see shades of their old dreams flicker in Lisa's eyes? Had Lisa's vulnerability exposed any part of herself that Irina had once understood so deeply? "You always had a way with words," Irina finally said, the corners of her lips curling in an encouraging manner. "Maybe it's time for a change." Her tone felt lighter, urging Lisa to continue. Yet deep down, Lisa's perspective echoed a chilling truth. She was pushing against a wave that could just as easily break her down. "Change or not, I am just so afraid of failing. What if I come face to face with the realization that I've created nothing substantial?" The words slipped out, a confessional whisper. The crowd felt distant, their applause now a muted sound to her ears. All that resonated was the dread pooling in her chest and what it might mean for her growth. As Lisa gazed into Irina's eyes, searching for any hint of reassurance, she was gripped by a revelation she couldn't ignore. This moment of clarity was a crossroads. It wasn't just Irina's opinions or the haunting echoes of Jake's skepticism. It was about her. Could she redefine her path and reveal her courage in the face of her own self-imposed limits? The microphone felt heavy, her reality intertwined with all that still loomed in the shadows, holding her back. And just as she prepared to weave a thread of new hope into her narrative, a figure stepped from the audience. "Wow. Are you really just going to stand there and let this chance slip through your fingers?" The voice cut through tightly packed anticipation. The air thickened, the once whispering doubts transformed into an accusatory confrontation. "Lisa, you deserve more than this." Caught between the friend from her past and a stranger challenging her present, the stakes had never felt higher. Whose approval was she truly seeking? The answer was submerged in the depths of her uncertainty. As she stood on the precipice of revelation, the room fell silent, all eyes on her, waiting, no, demanding her next move. The moment bore down on her, leaving her at a crossroads. Would she embrace the possibility of transformation, or would she descend back into the shadows of her self-doubt? Lisa's heart raced, and the room felt like a pressure cooker, every eye poised on her, awaiting a response that could unravel her carefully constructed exterior. The voice that had just pierced the air belonged to a stranger, yet it resonated with an eerie familiarity. The challenge lodged itself deep within her consciousness, demanding a reaction. The words dug into her self-doubt, igniting a flicker of defiance. "Deserve more than this," she repeated internally, as if testing the veracity of the claim. What did it mean to deserve something? In a life where she'd often settled for mediocrity, that truth felt foreign, almost treasonous. An avalanche of thoughts cascaded through her mind. She could entertain the thought of walking away, slipping back into the shadows of her insecurities, or she could finally confront the wall of limitations she had built over years of fear. The question hovered. Did she want to be the woman who vanished back into the background, unnoticed? Or did she want to stake her claim in a world she half believed she belonged to? Her throat tightened, clenching the microphone as if it were her only lifeline. "I'm trying," she said, her voice surprisingly strong amidst the growing tension. "I'm trying to carve out a space for myself, for everyone who's ever felt invisible." Sounding the words out loud ignited something primal within her, crystallizing her purpose in a way that felt palpable. Irina observed with a mixed expression of admiration and concern, yet Lisa didn't dwell on it. The anxious crowd remained silent, waiting for her to either falter or bloom. Their anticipation grew heavier, and in that split second of uncertainty, something shifted inside her. "I refuse to fade away into nothingness, simply because I fear what might happen if I aim higher," Lisa declared, the power of her statement resounding in the stillness. "I used to think that my contribution in this small diner was just fine. But what if I'm meant for more? What if I can create a space that empowers others, that inspires them? Her pulse quickened, each word unspooling like a thread, binding her scattered thoughts into a coherent tapestry of ambition. Fleeting doubts threatened to surface again, but this time Lisa fought against them. Something had clicked, a mechanism inside her ignited by the sheer weight of her desire. The stakes were high. She could feel the urgency swirling around them, a silent challenge to rise above her fears. Just then, she heard the audience shift, a slight murmuring that began to gather momentum. The applause had faded into quiet admiration, but grew into something else. Watching their hopeful expressions pushed her forward, fueling her narrative of transformation, and she seized the moment to embrace vulnerability. I know that survival is not living. I have spent too long in survival mode. I want to create, feel, and connect. Lisa's gaze flicked to Irina, who stood there wide-eyed, the skepticism fading. For the first time in a long while, she felt a surge of belonging, understanding, yes, shared fears, absolutely. In Irina's warm acknowledgement, Lisa sensed the possibility that they both shared the same ancestral need for connection and expression. As she locked eyes with the figure still lingering at the edge of the audience, she felt a wave of solidarity surge around her. This nameless figure was a catalyst. Maybe this was the push she needed to really discover. What had she buried within herself all those years? What else could she unleash? It was time to break free from the shackles of her past, to embrace the truth that change required action. Lisa inhaled deeply, determined to channel the fervent energy building inside her. Maybe I'm not stepping into something new for myself alone, but for everyone who fears leaping into the unknown, she confessed boldly. In that moment, as doubts receded into the background, a realization crystallized within her. She had a power to redefine herself not just through dreams, but through tangible actions that inspired others. The audience's response transformed into a swell of supportive applause, lifting her spirit and igniting a wildfire of belief. This was no longer just her transformation. It was part of a larger narrative weaving its way through the diner, and she was at the center of it, the architect of her own destiny. As the cheers rose, however, a new tension emerged. Lisa could see a silhouette gliding toward her, seemingly saturated with disdain. The smile on Irina's face wavered as the figure approached, shadows of disbelief lingering in the air. The confrontation of identities was imminent, and buried questions demanded answers. Would Lisa's newfound resolve withstand this unexpected challenge? Was a true transformation possible when others continued to hold her past against her? The figure approached, tall and confident. Lisa's gaze hardened instinctively. She recognized the woman striding toward her with an air of superiority, a mixture of disbelief and judgment settling over her features. It was Amanda, a former colleague whose condescension had lingered long after they had parted ways. The audience hushed, a tension palpable in the air, their eyes drawn to the unfolding confrontation. "Look at you, Lisa," Amanda smirked, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "Hoping to turn a greasy diner into something dignified? It's adorable, really." The words fluttered like mocking butterfly wings, dredging up the insecurities Lisa had fought so hard to overcome. For a fleeting moment, doubts clawed at Lisa's resolve. Was she merely an imposter, playing dress-up while the adults played out real lives? The familiar voice was relentless. A part of her wanted to reconcile this confrontation with silence, but then she remembered the fire ignited within her moments earlier. She had just declared her intent to embrace her worth. The sting of Amanda's remarks only fueled it. "Adorable is better than stagnant, Amanda," Lisa shot back, her voice firm, surprising even herself. "You wouldn't know what it means to be real, to struggle and still stand. I'm not ashamed of my background. It's my motivation." The crowd shifted. Lisa's words reverberated through the space, carrying a weight of authenticity. Each person there served as both witness and participant in the small revolution stirring within her. It became evident to her now that this was not merely about Amanda's taunts. It was about laying claim to her identity, her story, her journey, every failure, every small victory leading her to this moment. Amanda bristled. You think you're some kind of hero? Just because you're speaking to an audience of sympathetic souls? The disdain in Amanda's eyes deepened, and Lisa could see the envy simmering just beneath the surface. It's not about sympathy. It's about truth, Lisa replied, finding her footing. You think I belong behind the counter, waiting for someone like you to validate my existence. I have dreams that reach far beyond these walls. As Lisa spoke, she caught sight of Irina nodding slightly, an ally amidst the judgment and skepticism that felt like a storm brewing around her. The crowd slowly began to respond, a ripple of murmurs and support growing stronger as Lisa spoke her truth. This is my rebirth. Every one of us has the power to reshape our narrative and strive for more. With each declaration, she felt layers of her old self peel away, revealing a new core strengthened by authenticity. I'm here to stand for those who feel voiceless, invisible, and overlooked. Do you even know what you're doing? Amanda challenged, her eyes narrowing. Lisa's heart raced, but beneath the initial swell of nerves, she felt clarity. She had always known the taste of fear, allowing it to dictate her decisions, but now, hesitation was not an option. I'm figuring it out, she stated, honesty echoing through her tone. And that's a start, something I've never done before. So yes, I'm rising, and you can either hold me back or step aside. With a newfound tenacity, Lisa sought out the gaze of the audience, meeting their hopeful expressions. This could be it, a defining moment that would propel her forward rather than bind her back. Their faces, once wrapped in uncertainty, now carried an undercurrent of encouragement that became her catalyst. In a world where she'd long been marginalized, perhaps this was not just a fight for her own self, but a call to spark transformation within all who had felt similarly stifled. But as Lisa stood resolute, Amanda's face twisted into a mask of disbelief. Behind her, Lisa noticed a familiar sight, her own reflection in the glass, a representation of resilience and courage she had scarcely acknowledged until now. The weight of her decision surged through her, igniting a ferocity she had never known. Would she allow Amanda's disdain to dictate her journey? Or was this newfound power merely a veneer, with deeper challenges lurking just out of reach? Amidst the uncertainty, she felt invigorated by one persistent question. What more could she uncover about her own hidden potential in this climate of confrontation? Would this moment serve as the beginning of something greater for both Lisa and those she sought to inspire? The challenge hung in the air, a promise of evolution intertwined with danger, and Lisa braced herself. She was ready to dive deeper into this journey of self-discovery. Standing there amid the warring energies of past resentment and newfound conviction, Lisa felt the adrenaline course through her. The hush of the room, once a stinging reminder of her insecurities, transformed into a sanctum of possibility. Each blink morphed the skepticism of her peers into a shield, empowering her to see the world from a different lens. Amanda's posture demanded respect, projecting an aura of untouchability that had once gripped Lisa with fear. Yet Lisa, emboldened by her defiance, sensed the tightening grip of that authority slipping away. She took a deep breath, quieting the doubt that continued to whisper in her ear. This wasn't the time to falter. It was a unique moment to map out her next steps. Every person in this room has a story, she continued, her voice unwavering, the words flowing with a natural, undeniable cadence. Every story holds the potential for change, for growth. Just because you might not understand mine doesn't mean it has no value. The gray world of uncertainty slightly melted into vibrant colors as she went deeper into her own narrative. As she spoke, Lisa examined her own thoughts. This reclamation of her voice had sparked an exhilarating fire within. Perhaps the encounter with Amanda was not meant to intimidate her, but instead, to ignite her resolve to explore who she had been and who she could become. She felt the audience leaning in, hungry for authenticity, drawn to the very flaws Amanda weaponized. The unexpected allyship she sensed from Irina reshaped her internal dialogue. Here was someone who understood the price of ambition, yet still chose to advocate for the underdog, Lisa. The profound realization unfolded. Her fight wasn't solely hers. It could be a collective journey toward embracing vulnerability with dignity. Yet, beneath the illumination of that realization, lay the stark reality that confrontations like this came with costs. Perhaps their lives had intertwined for a purpose, something larger than both of them. Every taunt and put-down Amanda threw her way only forged Lisa's heart into something fiercer, more resilient. In the midst of the gathering, Lisa glimpsed another woman seated quietly at the back, an enigmatic figure with eyes that glanced back with genuine curiosity. There was something in her expression, something that spoke of understanding, yet it was wrapped in layers that hinted at stories hinted at, but never fully expounded upon. "What have I been afraid of?" Lisa contemplated, the question looming large within her. She had spent long enough hiding behind insecurities and the haunting memory of Amanda's words. What if instead she enveloped those experiences only she could validate? The crowd would not witness a defeated woman today. They would bear witness to a Lisa claiming her space, her voice. With the piercing clarity of her purpose driving her forward, she continued, "We are defined not by the failures we encounter or the people who doubt us, but by our determination to redefine ourselves against all odds." Those words landed like seeds in the fertile soil of her audience's minds, creating an echo that resonated deeply with each listener. The atmosphere thickened, charged with possibility as the tide began to shift. As Lisa's speech unfolded into the horizon of her dreams, a fresh realization crept in. What if Amanda's disdain was the very catalyst she needed to propel herself higher? What if she reframed this confrontation as a defining moment, inviting others to join her in embracing their own potential? Yet as she finished, triumphant sparks danced in her veins, and she caught a glimpse of Amanda's face. It was strained, an uncomfortable mix of rage and insecurity. As their eyes locked, a sudden wave of vulnerability washed over Lisa. The power shift had begun, but the battle was far from over. What awaited Lisa as she stepped deeper into this new reality? Would Amanda retaliate? Could the ground she was claiming endure the weight of anticipated backlash? As those thoughts settled heavily in the pit of her stomach, Lisa knew this was just the prologue. There was more to uncover, and with that realization came the dawning truth. She would need to prepare for a dive into what lay beneath the surface of her own aspirations. The real question lingered in the air, heavy with potential. Would she lose herself to the battles ahead, or rise anew amid the fray flooding her way? In the days that followed, Lisa experienced an unforeseen metamorphosis. The event generated a ripple effect, bringing in new patrons and sparking intrigue. The diner transcended its old image, transforming into a vibrant hub of creativity and opportunity for young talents. Lisa found herself stepping into roles she had only imagined, organizing events, curating performances, and leading workshops. Her confidence blossomed as she learned to embrace her voice, finally acknowledging her own worth. Amanda's presence during these changes morphed from judgment to support, an unexpected evolution where resentment shifted into friendship. Together they crafted a shared vision, not only to elevate the diner, but also to create a sanctuary for artists seeking solace in a world brimming with pressures and expectations. Lisa imbued the space with energy, transforming her insecurities into a fierce commitment, establishing herself as a leader in the community. Each week brought fresh challenges, yet Lisa conquered them with resilience and the tools she cultivated through her partnership with Amanda. Administering feedback sessions after every event, she invited patrons to contribute their thoughts and suggestions, bridging the gap between ownership and community participation. Drifting away from the shadows of self-doubt, she embraced constructive criticism as fuel for further growth. The defining moment occurred when Lisa received an invitation from the local Arts Council to present her initiative at a regional meeting, an honor she could scarcely fathom just months earlier. Standing before the panel, a mix of artists, city officials, and community members, Lisa felt a surge of purpose course through her veins. She recounted her journey, illuminated the community's shared progress, and illustrated the profound impact of embracing collaboration. Rather than extolling individualism, she crafted her speech around unity, an invitation to believe in the potential of a collective vision. Together, we can cultivate an environment where our fears no longer bind us but inspire us, she proclaimed, the words resonating with both conviction and clarity. The applause that followed was invigorating but unanticipated. It wasn't just recognition of her hard work. It was validation for a mission bigger than herself. Her narrative transcended even the established norms, weaving a narrative thread through shared experiences, allowing her to step out from behind the mask she had worn for so long. Months later, standing on the same stage where she had once been intimidated by Amanda, Lisa felt liberated. The diner buzzed with life, and she had helped foster a sense of community that resonated far beyond its walls. People from all backgrounds came together, their laughter merging into a shared symbiosis enriched by Lisa's vision. In her heart, she felt a profound transformation. She had emerged not only as a successful entrepreneur, but also as a mentor to those grappling with their decisions, the same way she once had. Lisa sat down with aspiring artists and others struggling to find their place in a world that often seemed stacked against them, sharing her story and the lesson it held. Embrace your journey, for that is where your strength lies. As she walked through the diner one evening, pausing to soak in the buzz around her, a familiar face approached. Irina, her friend from high school, had returned to see the transformation that had taken place. They exchanged stories, laughter, and glances that spoke of shared struggles, ultimately finding solace in their journeys. "You've really done it, Lisa. You turned a place of doubt into a sanctuary," Irina said, her voice wrapped in awe. Lisa smiled, feeling the weight of validation settle within her. "It's not just me. It's about all of us. The connections we nurtured, the courage to confront what once kept us apart." Those words resonated as a final affirmation of her hard-fought journey. It wasn't simply about individual achievement, but rather about embracing vulnerability and overcoming trials together. Lisa had become the architect of transformation, not only for the diner, but also within herself. Her acknowledged accomplishments shone brightly, devoid of the shadows of fear that once trapped her. She had proven to herself and to the world that the power to create lay not in mere ambition, but in connection, collaboration, and the unyielding spirit to rise against the odds. In that moment, she realized the true prize she had achieved. Not just success in business, but self-defined fulfillment. A decisive victory over the narrative of limitation she had once lived within. This was her path, simply lit by the realization that she could conquer any challenge that lay ahead, for the arena of her life was now filled with strength, passion, and purpose, a testament to the spirit of resilience. As she glanced around the bustling diner, laughter and creativity enveloping her, Lisa could finally breathe easy. She had transformed not just herself, but the world around her, and that, at its core, was true success. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It really helps make a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to be part of this moment.